Gig Gab, episode 467 for Monday, February 3rd, the day the music died, 2025. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Gig Gab, the show by, for, and about working musicians. And here in Anaheim, California today, I'm Dave Hamilton, and I just finished my final night, my final event of what turns out to be my first time at NAMM, the conference for the music industry. This was a fascinating weekend. I want to get into it. Get your favorite beverage or a favorite beverage. It doesn't have to be the actual favorite beverage of yours, but get a favorite beverage and let's sit down together and talk about this. I'm having chamomile tea because it's late here on the night of Saturday the 25th, which is the last night of NAMM when I'm recording this. And I have a very early flight tomorrow morning. My flight takes off at, well, it's nicer to think about it as 11:30 a.m. Eastern time, but it really is 8:30 a.m. Pacific, and the airport's at least an hour away. So, it's going to be an early morning and one of those long travel days. But I needed to I found myself sitting here in my hotel processing everything that I kind of went through, and I thought, well, let's do that together. Before we get into it, I want to just take a minute and share it, at least in this moment, and I'm hoping that by the time this episode comes out in about 9 days or something, that things have certainly not gotten worse and hopefully gotten much better with the California fires. Although so many people here at NAMM and part of the music community in general here in Southern California have lost so much. Their homes, in some cases, major studios, all kinds of things. So certainly my thoughts go out to him, and I know that's the same for all of us here. About NAMM, I can't believe that it took me this long to get here. I've talked about it before on the show that I have not ever attended, and it's interesting. I've known for a couple of years that, especially since we've been doing Gig Gab, that I should come to this show. But really, even before that, there was just so much here that made sense for me because of my other businesses in the Apple tech space. I always had to go to CES, which I did this year. And prior to that, and in sync with that, when it existed, I was always going to Macworld Expo, and CES and Macworld Expo would compete for which one could be the earliest show of the year. And it was usually Macworld Expo first, then CES, and then oftentimes NAMM right after that. And back in those days, I just convinced myself, okay, one of these has to give, and it was NAMM. And then I just got in the habit of not coming to NAMM. I knew last year it was that I was making a terrible decision, but I made it, and I did not come. And then throughout the year, I was like, I got to do it. And even last year, I had hotels booked, and they had given me a media badge and all the things. And they did the same this year, and I did the same. I booked hotels. And then it was when I had Susie Major from Ragdolls, a band that our friend Dan East had talked about seeing here at NAMM a couple of times. And I had her on the show, and she said, well, we're playing again NAMM this year. You've got to come out. And I said on the show, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then I got 25 emails from many of you saying, really? You're going to NAMM this year? And it turns out the answer was yes. So, and it was absolutely the right decision. It's interesting. I've gone to South by Southwest many, many times. I actually don't know how many times I've been to South by Southwest. I felt more connected to the NAMM community and all of the people here at NAMM my first time here, my first day here, far more connected here than I'm sure I will at South by Southwest in 2 months. It's very, everybody's so friendly with one another. It really is. There's a term that's thrown around called the NAMMily. Whether you like that term or not, it does communicate really what happens here. Everybody's excited to see each other. There's a lot of companies that compete with each other, but all the people are very friendly, and it makes sense because in this industry, so there's a lot of things in this industry. There are subsets of it, right? There's, sound reinforcement, pro sound reinforcement, speaker companies, loudspeaker companies, microphone companies, in-ear companies, guitar companies, drum companies, right? And all of these sort of sub-industries of the music industry are fairly small. And what that means is the people that are here in those sub-industries either have worked with the people who work at their competitors or will work with the people who work at their competitors, probably at those competitors. So everybody sort of understands that, yeah, we're kind of all in this together and it's okay. And, they don't share industry secrets with each other or anything, of course, but they're happy to break bread and go have a drink and just run into one another on the show floor. And I watched it happen many times this week where somebody that used to work at a company but now works at a competitor, I was talking to him like, let me make sure to introduce you to somebody at this place I used to work. And so it just happens, and it's very, very tight knit. It's also really interesting, and this to me was palpable the first day here, my really even my first evening, just seeing how everything was set up and being set up, because I got here kind of a day before-ish, was that everyone here is our people. It's rare to run into someone who doesn't have the experience, knowledge, visceral sensation of having been on stage, backstage, side stage, front of house. One or more of those things is something almost everyone here has experienced. And that's not the case when you're hanging out with non-musicians or people in this business. Most people we all know, well, maybe not people we all know, but most people in general don't know what it's like to be on stage. They certainly don't know what it's like to be backstage. They certainly haven't normalized being on stage or backstage. When we get backstage at a gig, it's like, all right, I'm going to put my stuff down and get my things. And it's just like, okay, well, this is now my sort of camp out place for a while. Backstage is something that is revered and talked about in hushed terms in so many other circles, but not ours, because it's just a place that we go regularly. It's normal. And so everybody here has some version of that experience, and often the same version or very, very similar versions. So I think that's part of why there's just this family vibe here. And it's not small by any stretch, but it's not so big that you can't connect with people. It's very easy to connect with people. The layout of how the hotels and the convention center here all are right together. Many hotels, I'm sure there's some hotels, of course, that you'd have to drive to that maybe are less expensive or whatever, but there's a ton of hotels right kind of in the complex here, which, it's weird, is right across the street from Disneyland. I did not realize that until my Uber driver said, "Aren't you right across the street from Disneyland?" I'm like, no, I'm at the convention center. He was like, yeah, the one right across the street from Disneyland. Oh, okay, sure. I look on the map. Yep, sure enough, there it is. So every day, walking to the thing, I say, oh, there's Tower of Terror, those sorts of things, which is also sort of weird. But, it's all fine. And but it's easily walkable and easy to get from place to place, and it's all sort of interconnected, and the weather was good. It's Southern California, and I didn't see any smoke from the fires. My throat's kind of shot, as you can hear. I'm also on a different microphone because I'm on my travel rig, but I don't know if that's just from talking so much in loud environments, and NAMM is loud, or if maybe there's some, lingering smoke sort of exacerbating my throat, whatever it is. But it's all really, If you haven't been and it's something that you've thought about, I highly recommend it. We're going to do more things with Gig Gab here. That was already being discussed this week. A couple of brands that we have sort of friendly relationships with. We're like, well, wait, aren't you going to do something here next year? It's like, oh, yeah, I guess, oh, sure, more work, but it's good work, right? So we will have some sort of thing, I would say, next year. And I guess because I'm saying it, it's going to happen. So, but that's fine. More work. More work is good. Let's talk about some of the things that I saw. Ragdolls. Susie Major, we had on the show last year, and Ragdolls, if you don't remember, or you didn't hear the episode, which is totally fine, is a mostly female, used to be all female, it's now mostly female, Aerosmith tribute band. They got a new drummer about 4 months ago, and Joe is male. Fantastic drummer, by the way, and we might have him on the show. He's had some amazing experiences. I got to talk to the band before they played, and then they played, and man, like, so good. They deliver the Aerosmith experience as themselves is really the best way I can say that. And it works. Man, does it work. Gosh, they are so good. So thanks to them for putting on a great show at the Hilton earlier this evening. And thanks to Susie for convincing me to come. And thanks to Dan East for telling us about it. It all kind of, the Gig Gab family delivers here. One other band that I saw was a band called MAEJOY, MAEJOY. And MAEJOY is fantastic, a great singer, a great songwriter, and her band was absolutely on fire. So if you get a chance to see MAEJOY, and there's links to all this in the show notes at giggabpodcast.com, of course. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because of something I saw. It was my first night-ish, the first full night of NAMM, certainly when I happened to walk into the Hilton lobby, where they turn the lobbies of a couple of the hotels into just full-fledged venues, really, is the right way to say it. Big stages and amazing sound systems and, full lighting rigs. It's a whole thing, obviously. And, but the one thing I noticed was one of the music that it seemed like MAEJOY had a somewhat modular band. In fact, it was modular during the performance. I watched drummers swap out with each other. And both of these drummers were like ridiculously fantastic. And they swapped out halfway through MAEJOY's set. And then during the last song, they swapped out mid-song, which was something. But I think it was the bass player, I want to say, was reading charts on like their phone or something. And they had a clear music stand, Lucite, clear music stand. And it was like, look at that. There's something on stage. They've got their phone and their stuff on it. But the music stand itself isn't just blocking the entirety of visual space that a music stand can block. Certainly the things on it were blocking because that's how, sight works and all of the reflective light and things like that. But seeing that clear music stand was like, yeah, man, like that was good stuff. So think about that the next time you are, walking on stage with a music stand. Is it maybe that it could be clear? Would that help? And we might as well go into the gear realm here, and I will transition that to something. I've got half a dozen things that I saw. There's more, lots more. Look at the Gig Gab podcast YouTube channel too, because I put up some videos, short little videos of things that I saw and kind of talk through them a little bit. But one of the things I saw is from a company called Triad-Orbit that I had never heard of before, but they make lots of things that are super heavy duty stands, super heavy duty hardware. And what I'm talking about here is the Triad-Orbit is the name of the company. The product is the iOrbit Pro. And what this is, it's a tablet smartphone clamp. And it is super heavy duty, clamps onto, really built for drummers in that it clamps onto a cymbal stand or some stand, infinitely adjustable, both for the tablet and for the angles of the thing. But once you lock it in, it locks right in. Now, it is everything I'm saying, and it's also $210. So know that it's, you're getting what you pay for here, and you're paying for what you get. But it's also a big system because you can connect microphone arms to this, and it's all very modular. You could, connect your camera if you want to set up like a live streaming setup or whatever, right? But a pretty cool thing, this iOrbit. What did I call it? The iOrbit Pro. Thank you. Yeah, that's what it is. The iOrbit Pro. Yep, there we are. So that's the first piece of gear that I want to talk about. The second piece of gear is from the folks at QSC. They have come out with what they call the K Column KC12 loudspeakers. Now, it looks like it is a column layout of this thing. What that would lead one to believe when looking at it is that it is a line array, in a tower, right? Like so many of those, the Bose Tower and the Turbo Sound Tower and all those things. This is not that. This is not a line array. This is a full three-way system with a subwoofer, a mid-range set of drivers, and then a high-end set of drivers. I think the mid-range drivers are 3-inch. The high-ends the mid-ranges are 4-inch drivers, and then I think the high-end is 1-inch drivers. And the sub is, 1-inch compression driver for the high-end, 2 4-inch mid-range drivers, and then 12-inch subwoofer in the base of this tower. And it's got 3,000 watts of power, 145-degree coverage area, 35-degree audience-directed vertical angle, the way that this thing is up there. And I saw a band, and it cost $2,000 for each one of these. I don't want to bury the lead here. So again, getting what you pay for. However, in one of the demo rooms off the show floor, so not a tuned environment by any stretch, right? This is conference, trade show hall, makeshift kind of thing. And there was a Latin band that played, full band that played, and they used one of these to fill a space that was the size of what most normal nightclubs would be. And it was way more than enough sound. Now, you can certainly get two of them and run them in, as a stereo pair and all of that. But with one of these being 3,000 watts, having enough power, one nice part about that is if you do only wind up using one of them, A, you only had to buy one, and so you saved half your money there. But two, you have single source of sound, which means you're not dealing with how to set up your speakers so that you're not getting weird reflections and therefore not getting comb filtering, where comb filtering is where sounds reflect to a point where they actually cancel each other out, and then you have weird dead spots and that sort of thing. So this KC12, it's a cool thing, and we're going to dig into this a little bit more. I like what they're doing there, but yeah, it's got tons of headroom. And like I said, it's a full three-way system. Oh, yeah, and it's got a mixer essentially on the back, like most towers do, right? We've got two inputs. You can do pass-throughs. Actually, you've got three inputs. You've got two combo jacks, XLR quarter-inch. Then you have a stereo aux input, and then also a Bluetooth input. And there's pass-throughs on the combo jacks. And then it's got a DSP in there so that you can tune the system. I think it's even got a little bit of reverb, but you can tune the EQ of it and all of that. The subwoofer is 48 pounds. the combination of the extension and the speakers at the top is 12 pounds total. So 60 pounds all in, and it breaks down such that you carry the subwoofer in one hand and sling that the other two pieces go in a case, and you can sling that over your shoulder. So definitely something to keep our eyes on. And of course we'll talk more about that as we find out more. Speaking of dealing with loud sounds, NAMM, as I said, is super loud, and on the show floor especially, it's, easily 80 dB most of the time, if not, 85, pushing 90. And the folks at Eargasm, you've probably seen their ads on, Facebook and Instagram. They make high fidelity earplugs for $46 a piece. And they gave out a set to most attendees. I think you had to sign up in advance or something. But I talked to them and I got a set of these. They are very comfortable. These are universal fit. They have a filter that really does sound fairly acoustically neutral. I don't want to say it's definitively acoustically neutral, but super comfortable, small. They fit in your ear. They drop about 20 dB of sound pressure. So, that helps make things safe, because bringing 100 dB down to 80 gives you a whole lot more exposure before you start to get damage in your ears. So I was glad to be able to finally test them out, and can certainly say that if that looks to be the type of earplugs you want to get, I would happily give you thumbs up on those. They come with two different sizes in the box. You can move the filters between the sizes, sort of a standard size and a small size. The standard size worked fine for me, and I find that I generally wear a medium on whatever the things are that when you have to put buds in your ears and that sort of thing. So that's that one. However, what I wound up using as earplugs most of the week were Apple AirPods Pro Gen 2. These are, I think they were released, about 15 months ago. So the fall of 2023 is when AirPods Pro Gen 2 were released. However, in fall of 2024, those AirPods Pro got a AirPods Pro Gen 2. I want to make sure I articulate that right. They got a major software update when, based on what the FDA now allows for companies to sell over-the-counter hearing aids. And certainly AirPods Pro Gen 2 have that. But what they also have is what I call an active earplugs feature, where when you're exposed to loud sound, if you're in one of the sound sort of mitigation modes of these, it will reduce the sound down. And it's amazing how great things sound, because it's doing it actively. It's not just passive, put fixed filters in your ears. It's using the microphone on the AirPods Pro, tuning things and adapting things in real time. And it sounds fantastic. It's weird because you don't realize how loud it is outside of you. You're very protected from your own ears are protected, but taking those out is shocking every time for me. And I don't get shocked. Like when I take earplugs out, it's like, yep, I know it's what I'm hearing, but way louder. This is very different from that. And it's bizarre how isolated they are able to make you from the loudness of the sound while still being very connected to the music and hearing things. And it in many cases sounds better. There's a little bit, I wish I could boost up the low mids a hair, not much, but I would like to get a little more roundness out of that sound. But otherwise, man, those AirPods Pro Gen 2 are, they're quite something. So if you are an Apple person, if you have an iPhone, and especially if you have AirPods Pro Gen 2 already, try them out. It's amazing how well they work. So, last week we had Tori Smith on from Black Box Prompter, sharing all of his Facebook lessons, like Facebook marketing lessons with us and all that stuff. I got to see the Black Box Prompter, and I did a video of this. It's on YouTube. It will be by the time this episode comes out. So it's on YouTube. This thing is cool. This is a smart prompter box. I have never seen one that's smart like this before. All the other ones that I've seen basically just, take a PDF. It's just a screen, right? And it doesn't do anything. This thing, man, does so much. And I know you heard about it last week, so I'm not going to rehash it all. But just being able to see it, I saw it, from 50 feet away as I was walking up to their booth. And it was like, oh, okay, this is so much better. You can set the font size on it in real time. You don't have to reprogram all your stuff into it to get it to be the right size. You're not guessing. It can do key transposition on the fly. You can set up set lists, and it's got Wi-Fi. They've now got, I think he talked about this on the episode. I can't remember if he told me after the fact, but it's out now. The sing-along mode where people scan a QR code that is, they don't need an app or anything. It just brings them in a browser to the lyrics that you are currently showing on your prompter. And when you change to a new song, everybody's phone in the venue changes too. So there's a lot of features. They've got on-song integration now and really kind of working. It's a cool thing. So I know we just talked about it last week, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but man, it's something worth checking out. And I think the pricing after NAMM is $1,200. So again, you're paying for what you get. I saw a lot of in-ear monitor companies, folks. This is not going to come as any great surprise. There are lots of them in the business, and also it's a personal interest of mine. So I know a lot of people in the in-ear monitor industry. We've had many of them on the show, and there's more that I just have gotten to know over the years. There's a new company, but not new people out. And the new company is called Dark Matter. They are making custom fit in-ear monitors. These are the team essentially comes from the ruins of Westone. Westone kind of closed down middle of last year, and Dark Matter is one of the things that's rising from the ashes there. I was told by a lot of people in the industry that these are the folks to watch. So I'm telling you, these are the folks to watch, and I am going to be watching them. One thing that they're doing that's interesting is their dual, we'll call it dual driver system, although these become confusing terms, especially with what I'm about to tell you. Their dual driver system is not just two balanced armatures. It is one balanced armature and one actual dynamic driver, aka a small speaker in there. And they use the dynamic driver for low end and the balanced armature with its articulation for the high end. And I got to listen to a universal fit version of these. They didn't custom make me a set of molds on the show floor. I don't think that would be doable. But I got to listen to a universal fit version. And, it's hard on the show floor because, like I said, it's just super loud all the time. And your hearing is kind of shot from being on the show floor, although I wore my AirPods Pro most of the time. But, man, it had a good full sound, not inexpensive. $699, so $700 for the two, the hybrid model. So one balanced armature, one dynamic driver. So in the expensive realm of these, but pretty good stuff. And there's other companies that we talked with too, and we'll get to those. But this one's someone to watch, and so I wanted to share that with all of us here. Stay tuned. All right, finally, can I talk about drums now? Because I talked about all the other things. Maybe not all, but all the other things that I've talked about weren't drums. I can't possibly explain how excited I am that Slingerland is back, and it's a fascinating story. The CEO, the president of Drum Workshop, Chris Lombardi, essentially took over for his dad, Don Lombardi. They have sold it is now a subsidiary of Roland. But for his dad's 75th birthday, Chris bought him Slingerland. Not a Slingerland. Slingerland. The brand. And then they got to work. And they recreated the Radio King snare drum and made it a perfect, to say a replica is kind of the wrong thing. They just made it again, but to all the same specs, but really made it roadworthy. So now there's only 100 of these being made right now. The limited edition is a run of 150 14-inch by 5-inch snare drums for $1,899, $1,899 each, and 50 14-inch by 7-inch snare drums, so $1,999 each. But they will be making more. This isn't just a limited run thing. They have the same 3-point strainer that is, it's so precisely tunable. It is one plank of maple steam bent into this. It's got the 30-degree bearing edges so that you get that. It's that Slingerland sound, and they had them there. Oh my gosh, they're so nice. But this is only the beginning. This is not the end of this. They are building snare drums and then also drum sets, and they had some drum sets there, and I got to hear those too. Yep, it's awesome. So very cool to have Slingerland drums back as a going concern. And then there's this company called Efnote, Efnote, that makes electronic drums. And Dan East told us about these last year after he came back from NAMM. Because of that, I went and sat and played them early on in my NAMM experience. So these are electronic drums. I am not someone who regularly plays E-drums. Therefore, I am not comfortable on E-drums. I always find that it takes me a couple of songs to adapt to the E-drums so that I learn how to make them sound and feel like I want them to sound and feel. I sat down at these and played them, and it was 30 seconds in that I realized I was playing them like they were a drum set, a regular drum set. And it really was comfortable, fluid, easy. And one of the reasons for that is that they have solved what I have deemed to be the hi-hat problem. The hi-hats felt like hi-hats. They did not feel like some overweighted rubber thing that I needed to hit and then far too many milliseconds later hear a sound that approximated a hi-hat. I hit them and it was nearly instant, and it's because they use samples, they're not generating sounds in there. And so you can do some generation, I suppose, but it's really just sample based, and that makes it fire really, really fast. And I was blown away with how much fun it was to play these drums. They felt good. They sounded good. It wasn't weird. What was weird was I took a little video, which again will be on our YouTube channel. And when I took that video of, they had, 8, 10 of these drum sets, and this is the show floor, so it's loud to begin with. I took the video standing amongst all of these people playing drum sets with headphones on, so you couldn't hear, there was no amplification of them. It was just the sound of, sticks on plastic and some man-made material, whatever it is. And I think I looked at my watch to get a rough dB reading, and it was like 73 dB or something like that. I was like, okay, there's something to this. So stay tuned. And they have different sized kits. I played a regular sized kit, and I also played their mini kit. Of course, you could, even with the mini kit, you can make it sound like it's got a 26-inch bass drum. It's just samples. The mini kit's like $2,200. So it's not going to break the bank. It's not a $10,000 kit. which is kind of shocked me. So yeah, keep an eye on that. We're gonna work with them a little bit this year too. So fun stuff. If you get to go to NAMM and you go to the show floor, there is a downstairs to the show floor that is somewhat hidden. I'm told in the past that's where they relegated all the drum companies so that people bashing on drums and such wouldn't be quite so intrusive into the ears of folks everywhere else. There weren't many drums there. I didn't talk about Tomo, but they were there with an array of impeccably tuned snare drums. It's amazing. But downstairs now is smaller companies, like very small companies. Usually the people you see at the booth are the people who started and work at the company and comprise the entirety of their workforce, rather, not just sales force, but workforce. Often the CEO, the creator is down there. That's where the black box prompter people were. The energy down there is infectious because every one of these people is so convinced that their product is going to change lives, most specifically theirs, right? And it's great. And of course, some of these companies will probably have failed before this episode comes out. That's okay. That's how innovation and starting businesses works. I don't mean to be dismissive of it, but it's just sort of a fact of how it is. But man, while you're down there, these people are so eager to show you cool things. And we have many more cool things to share here on the show. I just wanted to give you kind of a sampling highlight as I do my initial processing of having been at NAMM. And then, of course, there were people, lots of people there, some of whom were recognizable, including Stevie Wonder. It was interesting. Stevie Wonder was playing at one point. He played keyboards, and he was there for a couple of days, I think. But at one point, he was playing electronic drums with headphones on, with a bunch of people watching him, videoing him, all the things. He's Stevie Wonder. Of course they were. But what was interesting about that, as I kind of thought about it, was, okay, well, this is something. So Stevie is playing electronic drums with headphones on. This is the scene. Lots of people watching. What that means is the only person who can hear Stevie Wonder playing the drums is Stevie Wonder, because that's how headphones work. And the only person who can't see Stevie Wonder playing the drums is Stevie Wonder. So it's this really sort of interesting sensory detachment experience with people watching nonetheless, and Stevie not watching them or himself for obvious reasons. So it's just interesting. I walked up to the Ultimate Ears booth one day. They had a big stage at their booth, and every hour or every couple of hours, whatever, they had somebody play. And I walk up, 10-15 minutes early for a meeting that I had with them. And I'm like, wait a minute, that drummer is Omar Hakim. Sure enough, Omar Hakim playing with his band. And it was, they were playing songs, but it was just a jam session. And they really were stretching out. So it was kind of fun to watch Omar just really, really go. And the, I can't remember his name. It's late. The guitar player in his band was the guy we all know from Daryl's House. It was that guitar player. And a fantastic keyboard player and bass player as well. Another notable / famous person I saw was Adam Johnson from Cover Band Confidential. We actually got to meet in person for the first time, which was a true pleasure. We got to chit chat. We took a picture together, did all the things. I saw Phil X from Bon Jovi. I saw him a lot. He was there every day. And for whatever reason, almost every time I was on the show floor, I somehow ran into Phil X. I think he was canvassing the floor at a very high rate of speed, just kind of doing his things. I saw Dave Weckl put on a sort of a short little drum clinic, which was, yeah, that guy can play. And I saw narrator Michael Walden speak. He was sort of promoting his new book, telling some stories from his new book, and then he played a little bit too. But if you don't know him, he was the second drummer in Mahavishnu Orchestra. He took over for Billy Cobham. He played in Weather Report a little bit, played with Jeff Beck, and produced Whitney Houston and Aretha Franklin, and worked with Quincy Jones a bunch. So fantastic stuff. So then that's the kind of thing that, of course, you can get to do if you're at NAMM. And although I was terrible about it this year, and I apologize, I only got to meet one listener who reached out. My schedule was stretched, but I will be there next year, almost certainly. I can't make. There's always chances of schedules not really working, but barring any of that, I'll be there, and we will make a point of creating an opportunity for us all to get together too, so that we can see each other and hang out and, kind of celebrate the Gig Gab family too. Thanks for hanging out. This was, I hope this was, when I started this episode, I said to myself, well, I'm going to record it, and we'll see if, in fact, we release it or if it needs to be redone. But I think we're going to release this one. I feel good about it. I hope you do too. Ask questions. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you want to hear more about this year too on the show. We've had last year was clearly a year of evolution, and there's no reason that has to stop. I mean, we've definitely got some new patterns set now, but we get to keep refining that and expanding that. So let me know what you want to hear. Feedback at giggabpodcast.com. Also, follow us on socials. Gig Gab Podcast on most of the socials, Instagram, Threads, Facebook. And then also, if I may, go to Gig Gab Podcast and sign up for our mailing list. It's not, we don't sell it, obviously. I know we have to say that because why, but we don't. And but what we do is send out the show notes every time we put out an episode. So you'll get a reminder that the episode's out, but B, you don't have to visit the website to see all the links for the products and stuff that we mention during the episode. So you just get those in your email box. So go giggabpodcast.com, sign up, and thank you for hanging out. Thanks for everything. It means so much to me and the team we have here that you're enjoying what we're doing. Like I said, tell us what you like, and by golly, always be performing, folks. I'll see you next week.